Hey, it's Tommy Tool with another episode of How to Get More Out of Your Breakup Than Just Heartache. So good for you. You're moving right along here in this module. This one is the mental fitness module. We're in lesson number 5. This is forgiveness in module 4. So here's what you will discover. This is, if you don't practice forgiveness, you might be the one who pays the most. So this is a really great lesson on things that you kind of you may not even realize that it's forgiveness that you need to do and practice, because forgiveness is kind of one of those things that shows up in other symptoms. And so we'll talk about that here in a minute. And we're going to talk about how to jumpstart the forgiveness process. I'm going to give you some steps, 3 steps on getting moving on forgiving. That kind of rhymes. Getting moving on forgiving. Anyway, so in the bonus section, I've included some more YouTube videos that speak to forgiveness, and there's some really powerful ones in there. And I really couldn't find any good ones on forgiving and divorce. So these are really more like people who either have been victims of crime or who've been criminals or whatever. But the message is really great about forgiving. And there's one in there, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that's more applicable. So, but I think they're all really good. And if you get a minute, check them out. I'm going to be adding more. If you come across any, send them to me, because I really love to update this stuff continuously. And, if you keep checking in on from time to time, I'll have some good stuff in there. So we're going to jump right in, and we're going to talk about forgiveness. So you can't get through a divorce without doing these 3 things: asking for, receiving, and giving forgiveness. I mean, I kind of take that back. You can, but you won't be really successful in your next relationship until you do. So you can kind of the stuff that you didn't deal with from your first relationship or first marriage will come back to bite you in the butt big time if you're not dealing with it. And I'm not kidding. All right? It's natural to feel like a victim of your divorce. Everyone does. You may even play the victim card for a while, as you should, but there's kind of a socially acceptable period of time that you can get away with that. So I don't really know what it is. It's, maybe a year or so, but that might be even a little too long. So you can get away with it for a while, but after a while, you're going to have to take some culpability for your own divorce, and you can't keep playing that victim card for too long, because people won't buy your story after a while, and they'll start to look at you funny, kind of like that. Plus, the more you make up why it wasn't your fault, the more you will continue to believe the lie you're telling yourself. So wake up and smell the coffee. But hey, Tommy, I was the sweetest spouse. I gave my ex everything, and they still did this to me. And you're telling me it's my fault? Where's my refund? Your program sucks. Now, well, just hold on, settle down, hear me out. I'm not saying this was entirely your fault at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not even saying it was 50% your fault. Absolutely, your ex has a character flaw if you did all you said for them out of love and understanding. And you spoke up when you needed to, and you bit your tongue when you needed to, and you celebrated your love every single day. But here's the thing. Maybe you shouldn't have done so much. Maybe you should have taken a stand more often, rather. Maybe you expected too little, too much? I'm not sure. Maybe you should have done more together, gone out more, spent more time together. Maybe you were too busy climbing the corporate ladder. I don't know. Maybe you should have shared in your worries together more, done more to ease each other's burdens, communicated more. Maybe you were flawed just a little. I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm only raising the issues for you to ask yourself, because you have to look inward if you really want to heal. You have to ask yourself this question: where did I go wrong? Yeah, Tommy, because I haven't asked myself a million times that question already today. All right, well, settle down. Ask yourself 1,000,001 times then, until you get the answer. It may not be the right answer, maybe not at first, but at least it'll be something you can work with, and then sit with it. Sit with that answer for a while. Get all pruny with it. You know, like you do when when you're sitting in the bathtub and you turn all pruny. Soak with it for a good long time. And just to confess, I still don't know if I hit on the right answer to my own divorce even. And it's been, 18 years ago. And I asked that question a lot. Where did I go wrong? I have a few ideas, some good ones, but I don't profess to know with absolute certainty. And most people would have stopped asking that question a long time ago, but because of what I do as a creator of Live Well Divorce and the website there, I test myself and I ask myself that question, where did I go wrong? I sort of do that for the benefit of my current marriage, except the question is a little bit more like this. Where did I go wrong so that I don't do it again? Did I do this in my first marriage? Am I repeating myself? Old habits sort of thing. So I want to be a good spouse, so I use the failings of my first marriage to learn from, and I keep them near so I don't forget where I tend to do collateral damage. And that's what I ask of you. That's what the whole point of this program is about, so that you learn from that, from your first marriage and the mistakes that you yourself might have made, and change some things about yourself, know when to speak up, know when to make some changes, know when to be heard, all that stuff. Okay, so back to my point of forgiveness. During your divorce, you won't be perfect. Nobody is. So when you do something later you regret, because it will happen, trust me, been there, done that, don't beat yourself up. Just learn from it and move on. If you need to apologize for something, do it sooner than later. But you need to forgive yourself and allow yourself to be forgiven. In the bonus section, as I mentioned, there's a TED Talk by Kimberly Yates. And this is the one I alluded to earlier. I hope that you take time to watch it, because her message is probably the best description of how to heal through forgiveness that I've come across. And it's more applicable to your situation. It's about relationships and healing from not being able to forgive in relationships. So that's a good one. So in all the videos, though, that I have on forgiveness, each speaker kind of has a resounding theme. They all talk about how when you are hurting and you don't know what to do with the hurt, that it turns into anger and ultimately depression. So that was kind of universal. So time and again, each person says you will self-destruct until you deal with the anger. And that the only way out of anger and depression is through forgiveness. Sounds hard, huh? But it really isn't. So that's the good news. Sometimes all it takes is a phone call, a letter, maybe a visit, a conversation. It can take years, though, for some people to have this chance to forgive. But it starts with forgiving yourself first and loving ourselves enough to realize we are hurting ourselves by holding on to the anger and depression. So, friends, let that stuff go. Just walk away from it. Let it go. Yeah, but how do you walk through this depression? It's a hard step to walk through depression. Sometimes it's more comfortable to stay in the state of being depressed. It's easier to be and stay depressed than it is to change your outlook. It's comfortable there, right? But come on, it can be done. Get outside your comfort zone. That first step is to make up your mind you don't want to keep living that way. So here's what the very first thing you need to do. You've got to just get mad at yourself for being mad, or whatever it is. Maybe be mad at yourself for being sad, or being depressed. Does that make sense? Get mad. You've got to get to that point where you've just had it. You've had enough of beating yourself up. Okay? You've got to fully believe that you weren't put here on this planet to be sad, depressed, and angry all the time. You were put here for a greater reason. Maybe someone is still hurting you. Okay? But it's your job to find out. Oh, excuse me, I skipped a step here. So you were put here for a greater reason. So it's your job to find out what that reason is, right? Your purpose, and move out of depression so you can do what you were meant to do. And again, the first step is to decide you've had enough. So figure out what your purpose is here too. There's more for you to do. So if someone's still hurting you, maybe you need to make up your mind you're not going to let them continue to do that. You are worth more. Look at it this way. If there are 7.4 billion people on this planet, 7.4 billion people, why are you letting one person make you so miserable? It doesn't make sense, does it? What makes them so special to have that power over you? Well, you want to know what the answer is? Okay, because in about 2 seconds you're going to realize this all on your own, okay? It's not that they are so special. It's that you are allowing them to make you miserable. Maybe you don't even realize it. Maybe it's something even deeper from your childhood that has carried over into your marriage and is part of your kind of maybe your makeup. I don't know. I'm just posing the question here. I'm not a shrink, but maybe it's something you should explore. Another question you need to ask yourself is this. Have you ever hurt someone the way this person is hurting you? Are you lashing out at others because you haven't dealt with your anger? You, your anger, and your unforgiving self need to deal with each other. Just remember, you're the ringmaster, not them. Grab it, own it, and ride it. Destroy the anger inside you and forgive. There's freedom in forgiving, really. I mean, it's pretty liberating. But how do you do this, Tommy? How do you forgive the unforgivable? Well, I'm not the expert on that, right? I don't mean to sound like I am, but that's a really good question for a mother or father who's lost a child to a heinous crime. I mean, and you see it all the time. You see these people who forgive the offender who did all that. The Louis Zamperini story is a good one too. But what I have heard people like this say is sometimes it starts with feelings of sorrow for the one who committed the crime to their loved one. That sorrow can turn into forgiveness. So I guess the message is feel sorry for the offender, right? But how do I ever feel sorry for someone who's taken from me my inner peace, my dream of a good old age, my dream for a happy family, everything I've ever worked for? Well, you can turn it around and look at it from your ex's perspective. They lost it all too, right? Yeah, but they're the ones footloose and fancy free, Tommy. They're out there getting it. They've got it pretty good and right now, and they're moving on while I'm stuck here holding the bag. They're out having a great old time. Okay, let me just tell you, it's not all that you perceive. You are just dealing with it sooner and faster. It may look like they're having fun, but here's the answer. Okay, you will survive this and you will come out of it faster because you are dealing with what's real. You are a survivor and you will make a better life. You are trying to learn from the experience. You are seeking help right now just by watching this video. Maybe they aren't. Maybe they don't know what you know. Maybe you'll move on 50% faster because you are dealing with it right now and they aren't. And I'm telling you, that's the truth. Maybe the kids will see that you're happier and the more pleasant one to be around. Maybe the kids would rather be with you because you have dealt with your anger and are pushing through it and have decided to be happy. Maybe when you see that your ex is stuck or you have moved on, maybe then you can feel sorry for them. And that's how it will start. In my case, my ex kept marrying new women and the kids got to a point where they would rather stay with me. Why? Because I wasn't screwing up as bad. I was working on me first. I started to feel sorry for him, and that's when I started to forgive him. I had moved on and was far better off. You will too. So the next step I have is accept your role in the divorce. We sort of talked about that a minute ago, like my little Shakespeare guy. So at some point, you have to accept your part in your divorce, no matter how innocent you were. And here's why. Because you can't heal properly until you do. Even if your part in the divorce was that you simply chose poorly in a spouse, then own it and accept it and embrace it. Maybe you settled on this person. And On some subconscious level, they knew it. Maybe your expectations for the marriage wasn't the same as your ex's. These are things you had a part in. So forgiveness is like closure. It comes in doses. If you don't practice forgiveness, you might be the one who pays the most. Anger and depression result when we don't deal with forgiveness. Therapy reveals the unburied resentment, anger, blame, fear, sadness. So, through therapy, you can heal, and through doing programs like this, these are really good steps to take in healing too. So you have to love yourself enough to heal in order to love others. Because I love this cartoon. It says it all. Love yourself because you can't leave yourself. You're kind of stuck with you, and you're lovable. So be good to yourself. Be your best friend. You wouldn't treat your best friend this way, would you? Hope not. Okay, so from the toolbox. Again, step 1, get mad at yourself for being mad or whatever it is, sad, angry, depressed. Feel sorry for the offender. Accept your part in the divorce, and you'll make it out of this alive, I'm telling you. So thanks for joining me, folks, and you're doing great. Keep it up. I know this is hard stuff, but you're going to get through it. There is a brighter tomorrow, I promise. All right, see you in the next video.